Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Jimmy Dore Show. You can see I have a special guest. This man's name is Jim Keedy, and he's a real activist who cares about real people, and he does real things. And how I first became aware of him was his run-in with Chris Christie.
Lined the streets today and had so many nice things to say. I want to thank you. I want to thank you very much. I got the picture. I read it. Okay, so you do yours too, buddy. So we know.
Shut up.
We know. Now listen, you all know me. So if we're going to get into a debate here today, it's going to get very interesting and very fun. So yeah. I understand. So I'll be more than happy to have a debate with you anytime you like, Guy, because somebody like you who doesn't know a damn thing about what you're talking about except to stand up and show off when the cameras are here. I've been here when the cameras aren't here, buddy, and done the work. I've been here when the cameras weren't here and did the work. So I'm glad you had your day to show off, but we're the ones who are here to actually do the work. So turn around, get your 15 minutes of fame, and then maybe take your jacket off, roll up your sleeves, and do something for the people of this state. So we'll see. Now listen, everybody. Yeah, good. And there's been 23 months since then when all you've been doing is flapping your mouth and not doing anything. So listen, you want to have the conversation later, I'm happy to have it, buddy. But until that time, sit down and shut up. Yeah, anytime you like, buddy. Anytime you like. Yeah, it's wonderful, absolutely. Yeah. I'll tell you, there's about 1,000 things I'll do tonight. Going to dinner with you is about number 1,001.
So what Chris Christie just said there was not true. And we're going to talk to him about that and a lot more stuff because Jim Keedy's his life story blew my mind. A lot of the stuff he's done is super interesting, super progressive. Tell me what was wrong about that story Chris Christie just told, Jim.
Sure, that was on the second anniversary of Hurricane Sandy, and Governor Christie was using my hometown of Belmar, New Jersey, as a prop in his ongoing narrative that he had helped the state recover and he had done a great job in getting people back home. And the unfortunate reality was on that day, we still had thousands and thousands of New Jersey residents that were not yet back home. And we also had about $800 million that had been given to the state of New Jersey that was unaccounted for. The federal government had given us $1.1 billion to help Sandy families get back home as part of what's called the REM program. And on that date, only $219 million had gone out the door over the course of 2 years to help families get rebuilt. And the fiscally responsible guy in me was asking the question of the governor, where's the other $800 million? And why don't you get in your office instead of, now this was prior to him declaring he was going to run for president. At the time, he was the head of the Republican Governors Association and was out of office, I think, 176 days in the year prior. So my poster said, stay in New Jersey and do your job and get Sandy families back home. Now, what I'm excited about, in the 3 months following that sit down and shut up moment, more money went out the door to Hurricane Sandy families in the following 3 months than had gone out in the entire 2 years prior. Now, we haven't solved that problem. I got an email 2 days ago from a resident of the town that I live in now, Spring Lake, which is next to my hometown of Belmar. And this is a woman who's still struggling to get herself completely back home and stabilized after Hurricane Sandy. And, we're almost 4 years out now from the storm.
So you actually didn't just show up for a photo op. Actually, that was the reverse. Chris Christie was accusing you of doing what he was actually doing. So you weren't. Yeah. You were actually helping people so much that didn't the town actually give you one of their own city trucks to help?
Yeah. So when the hurricane hit, I dropped everything for almost a month and was volunteering in my hometown Belmar from sunup to sundown. Maybe 2 or 3 days after the storm, we were cleaning up 6th Avenue. Which is one of the hardest hit streets in town for the storm. I grew up on 5th Avenue. And, one of the guys, we were just loading up debris. There was chunks of the boardwalk, the gazebo from the top of the lake, clearing people's homes out. And all we had was one pickup truck from a volunteer to cart this stuff to the makeshift dump that had been set up down by the marina. And the guy came back after doing the dump, and he's like, "We need a bigger truck." So I said, "All right." I walked around the corner to my parents' house. I jumped on my bicycle. I rode to the borough yard, talked to the guy who was the deputy director, and I'm like, "Look, we need a bigger truck over on 6th Avenue. We got 5 dozen volunteers that are cleaning things up." He's like, "All right, come here." And he walks me over to this giant dump truck, and I'm expecting one of the borough guys to get in with me and drive over to 6th Avenue. And he says, "All right, here's how you work this and work that, and here's the hydraulics, and here are the keys. Go." I had never driven a giant dump truck with, those kind of hydraulics. And it's amazing what the authority you have when you're driving a big red borough dump truck around town. But they gave me that truck to use for almost a month. And I would show up at Borough Hall early in the morning, and I would meet with one of the councilwomen there, Jen Nicolay. And here was the list that came in from the night before. There's a family here that needs a waterlogged refrigerator taken out of their basement. And there'd be, hundreds of volunteers that had mustered in the gym. And I'd be like, "All right, we got a refrigerator. Hey, here's, 20 kids from the Wall High School football team. Get in the back of the truck." And I would drive them over, and we'd go take care of that. And we'd just go through the list day in and day out, helping my neighbors, my former teachers, my Little League coaches who were devastated by this storm to get cleaned up and cleared out and stabilized. And then after that month, I trusted the governor when he said, "Getting Sandy families back home will be the top priority of my administration." And I, not that I dropped the issue, but I trusted that they were going to do their job. Almost 2 years out from the storm, I'm at the climate change march in New York City. Hundreds of thousands of people marching in the streets. By chance, I end up marching next to half a dozen people from New Jersey who live 15 minutes from the bar that my family's owned for the last 35 years. And none of them were back home yet. These were Sandy survivors that were still struggling. So
Wow.
they were with a pretty seasoned organizer. She had been, my friend Amanda had worked in New York and she had worked in Washington, D.C. She was from Jersey, from the LBI area, moved back home after the storm to help her family. And then she and I started talking and said, look, there's an opportunity here. We've got to help organize these families so they can build power at the grassroots level to get what they need to get back home. And we started this organization called the New Jersey Organizing Project. And that run-in with Christie was our first public action. There were just 3 of us there. All we planned to do was stand up and hold posters up silently. And then the governor engaged me. And while other people have backed down to his bullying routine, look, I'm a former elected official. I'm 6'4", 220. I'm also a former pro athlete. I'm not afraid of him and his bullying routine. And I think you see from the video clips how that went.
Yeah. So what made you decide to run for Congress?
Yeah, so I've been involved in doing grassroots activism for the last 20 years. I've worked on issues ranging from the Nike sweatshop issue to very recently being over in Greece helping refugees, Syrian refugees who were coming across from Turkey into Greece. I've been involved on climate change issues, racial justice issues. And when we, the activists, get together and we start talking about what we need, one of the things that always pops up is, God, wouldn't it be great if we had more people in Congress who just got it? Like people who we didn't have to convince that healthcare is a human right and we should have a single-payer universal healthcare system, or that climate change is real and we need to start having policies that reflect that, or that Black Lives Matter and we need to start putting in better community policing procedures and having a revolution in terms of racial justice and all the issues that we care about as activists. We need more voices on the inside who get it. And I've made the commitment to run in New Jersey's Fighting Fourth District, that I want to be the voice, not just for our district, but for the state of New Jersey and for the people of the United States. We have far too many people down in D.C. that are representing the big corporations and the billionaires. Look, I'm squarely in the middle class. I run my family's business. It's a Main Street tavern. Prior to that, I did grassroots social justice activism for 15 years. I'm no millionaire. We need people who have our voices, our understanding, our life experiences on the floor of the House of Representatives, sharing what our concerns are and what our experiences are, and pushing for policies that are going to benefit the majority of Americans and not a small minority of oligarchs that have been dominating our political landscape for far too long.
So let me just really quick that was a great answer, but let me ask you, are you for single payer health care, correct? Are you for
Yes.
tuition-free college?
Yes.
Are you for
tuition? Now let's clarify that. I want tuition-free at public universities.
Right, tuition-free.
One of the things that I think where Bernie has struggled in terms of communicating that, like people will say to me, "Well, how are we going to pay for it?" And I say to them, I try to disarm them and say, "Look, that's a great question. Do you want an answer? And do we philosophically agree that it's a good idea?" So I just start to walk people through the history. I go, look, if we go back, 150 years, the only people who were getting an education were the male son, or the sons rather, of rich white people. And then as a nation, we have generally moved forward where we had, publicly funded education for first grade through 8th grade. And then it went from first grade through 12th grade. And then it went from kindergarten to 12th grade. And then it was pre-K to 12th grade. And all that people like us are saying is, look, the world has changed. If we want our citizens to be competitive in the global economy, we've got to have as an educated citizenry as possible. And we need to just extend that public education from pre-K to, at a minimum, an associate's degree, to best case scenario, a bachelor's degree. And the money, the way that Bernie had talked about funding it was, putting a very small tax on speculative trades that were being done on Wall Street, and that would generate 80% of the money. Now, where in New Jersey it would be a tough sell, the other 20% was supposed to come from the state governments. Now, we're hemorrhaging money in New Jersey. We are not fiscally healthy. So even if we fell short and couldn't do the 20% on our end, but could offer working families an 80% tuition reduction, right? So if it's, say, Rutgers University, a tuition is, I'm just throwing this number out for the ease of math, $10,000 a year. If now it's only $2,000, that's manageable for a working family, or even for a student to get a part-time job while they're going to school. Right? So this isn't a radical idea. We have publicly funded education for the entire arc when we first started going from 1st to 8th of our nation's history. It's just got to go from 1st to 16th now, and we can do it.
I agree with you. So you're for free tuition public colleges. You're for single payer. Are you for a $15 minimum wage?
Yes.
How about a ban? How about a ban on fracking?
Let's talk about the minimum wage, because one of the voices that I want to bring to Congress is the voice of the small business owner. Right? That's my family's run a small family business. I run the family's business now. We've had it for 35 years. We need to phase it in a way that will be beneficial to small businesses. Like if you look at a Walmart, a Kmart, a Nike, the giant big box stores, they can pay a $15 minimum wage tomorrow, and it's not going to hurt anyone other than it may carve into the giant salaries and bonus packages that the people way at the top get. You put a $15 minimum wage on, a pizza place on, 3rd Avenue here where I live in Spring Lake, that could be challenging for a small business. So we've got to figure out ways that we can phase it in for the small business owners where it goes immediate for the giant corporations. And the way that I sell it to small business owners is, look, we have all these big box stores that surround us. And I know at my bar, I have young 20-somethings coming in who are working for those big stores. And they make, the minimum wage. And they can come in and buy, $2 pint beers or dollar mugs and half-price appetizers. Well, if their wages increase 40%, they're now going to be able to come in and buy dinner and take their significant other out for dinner and buy a round for their friends. And that is going to increase my bottom line, which is going to allow me to raise the wages for my workers, which I'm committed to do. I took the bar over 4 years ago. My father passed away, and one of my goals was to get everybody up to the living wage standard for Southern Ocean County in New Jersey. I'm almost there. And, again, if we grow that economic pie at the bottom by putting more money in the hands of working people, economists, they have a fancy term for it called the velocity of money. Right? It just means that everyday people have more money to spend on everyday items. And it takes money out of the hands of a billionaire, possibly. What are they going to do? Buy another yacht? Put their money in another offshore bank account? We got to get that money to work for the American people to grow our economy, strengthen our middle class, allow our poor and our working class a true vehicle up out of those economic classes.
Yes. So what people don't understand, when a corporation outsources a good-paying job in America to a poorer person in a more desperate situation in a third world country, that person who used to have that good-paying job still lives in America. So now he gets a lower-paying job. The company who shipped his job offshore makes more money because they're doing it. So they have increased corporate profits, but that money never trickles down into our economy. They take that extra money, they offshore it, they put it in a bank. They don't invest it back in our economy like a person you're talking about, someone who works at Walmart. When they get more money in their pocket, they put it back into the economy, and that's what FDR understood. That's called demand side. That's called demand side economics, not supply side economics. And FDR knew it, and that's what made us the greatest country in the world, with the biggest middle class and the most ability to have the upwardly mobile inside our economy. Right now, Europe has a better chance for economic mobility than people do in the United States. So that whole idea is if you work really hard and you can get ahead in America really isn't that true anymore, because those jobs are gone. So what you're saying is, and I agree with you 100%, is get back to FDR economics, which is you put money into the pockets of the worker, and that lifts the boat for everybody. So, okay, I'm glad we're on the same page on that. So you're for a living wage. You have a special way to have it phased in for small business owners. That's a pretty good idea. You're for a single payer. You're for free college, public schools, universities. What else? Are you for a fracking ban? Are you against fracking?
I am against fracking. I think we have to be making massive investments in green technology. I mean, that is the way for us to move forward. You want to have a second industrial revolution in the United States and create good-paying jobs. We need to be investing massively in green technology and become the leader in producing solar panels, wind turbines. There are people, the engineers know how to do this stuff. We need the visionary leadership in D.C. to stand behind them and put the resources in place so we can cut loose the energy of the American working class. People want to work. They want to be part of something that is bigger than they are. I want our nation to truly be a beacon of hope for the world and not just lip service, right? We need to be fighting for what made us great at one point. The stuff you talked about with regard to FDR. Let's get back to basics. Invest in our people, invest in our country. And when we do that and we grow our economy, we reestablish our middle class. We have a government that is of, for, and by the people and not bought and sold by the highest bidders of the giant corporations and the billionaires. Then we can say again we're number one. And this is why I'm running for Congress. We need these kinds of voices in D.C.
So I agree that we need those kinds of voices in D.C. So you would be obviously for getting corporate money out of politics?
Absolutely. It's one of my top issues for my campaign is campaign finance reform. All the things that we're talking about, that we just discussed, the issues that you walked through the laundry list, none of those are possible if we do not have true campaign finance reform. Because there are far too many people in D.C. that are bought by the big donor class. And once they get in there, they are more concerned about maintaining the donation so that they can stay in their seat than what's right for the American people. So in terms of overarching themes for me, the two big ones are dealing with the campaign finance reform and dealing with climate change. Because if we do not get the big money out of politics, we will no longer have the slightest shards of a democracy, right? We're near complete oligarchy.
We're there. I think we're there. I think we're at an oligarchy.
And if we don't take care of the climate, we don't have clean water, clean air, and a climate that we can live in and not get destroyed by. And I saw the destructive power of climate change when Hurricane Sandy came rolling through my neighborhood, right? None of the other issues matter.
But getting money out of politics is definitely the number one thing. We can't get anything else done until we do that. How do you feel about Wall Street and breaking up the big banks? Because the Democratic Party, as you well know, got in bed with Wall Street in the 90s.
Yep, sure.
And so I had Shama Sawan on our show, and she explained to everybody that you cannot be in bed with Wall Street and claim to represent workers, because Wall Street's agenda is diametrically opposed to workers' agendas, right? So workers' agenda is about getting more stuff for workers. Wall Street agenda is about squeezing workers so they can increase their corporate profits. Those are diametric. You can't represent them and represent the other. What's your stance on Wall Street?
I agree with everything that you just said.
Okay.
You articulated it very well. You cannot say, I am going to advance the interests of Wall Street traders whose job it is to find anomalies in the marketplace, to maximize returns for shareholders and extract wealth that they did nothing to help create and added zero value, and also turn around and say, yeah, I'm also for the workers who helped create that wealth that are getting the shaft every day by being paid subsistence wages, who are having their unions busted, who don't have good benefits packages, retirement plans, etc. So my commitment on those issues is born out of my experience of, what really radicalized me and got me politically involved. I used to be a soccer coach at St. John's University in New York City back in the late 90s. And at the time, I was also doing a graduate degree in theology. And in my first class, I started writing a paper about Nike and their labor practices in light of what's called Catholic social teaching.
It's a great story. Please tell the story. It's a great story.
Yeah. So what I found was, if you wanted to pick a company that violated everything we claimed to stand for as the largest Catholic university in the world, Nike was the perfect case study. And at the same time I'm learning these horrible things about Nike, St. John's University Athletic Department starts to negotiate a multi-million-dollar endorsement contract with them. And part of that deal, I would have to wear and promote Nike's products. I tried for a year to negotiate myself out of the deal behind the scenes. Eventually, I took a public stand. I said I cannot and will not be a walking advertisement for a company that is completely exploiting workers and is violating everything we stand for. And I was given an ultimatum by my head coach: wear Nike and drop this or get out. I held my ground. I was forced to resign. I became the first athlete in the world to say no to Nike because of the sweatshop issue. That was big news. I then filed a lawsuit against St. John's and Nike. I came out of the courthouse, and there's ABC, NBC, Fox. I'm on HBO Sports, ESPN. I started getting invited around the country to universities to talk about this issue. I mean, this is the late 90s, and that issue was first bubbling up in the consciousness of the American people. And I was now this instant expert. And in those early lectures that I was doing, I would have critics in the audience, the market fundamentalists, some of them like my Wall Street buddies that I went to high school with, saying to me, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. Those are great jobs for those poor people. What else would they be doing if Nike wasn't there? And I knew from my research that they were wrong. The competitive athlete in me wanted to prove them wrong. So in the summer of 2000, I moved to Indonesia, and I went to go live in a factory worker's slum in Tangerang, Indonesia, and tried to survive on a Nike sweatshop wage. At the time, it was $1.25 a day. And I lost 25 pounds in a month living on that Nike wage, sleeping on a cement floor with the rats and the cockroaches, surrounded by open sewers around the home, and met the mostly young women who made the stuff that as an athlete I wore my entire life, and I never thought twice about who they were and what their lives were like. And I promised them, I will go home, I will tell your stories, I'll advocate for you. And I thought I was going to do that for a 6 or 7 week speaking tour, and I ended up doing it full time for 15 years. I brought those stories to more than 500 campuses around the country. I've been invited down to Capitol Hill to brief members of Congress on the issue. I've been invited into corporate boardrooms to talk about it, including Nike's global headquarters in Portland, Oregon, Beaverton, Oregon.
And so when you went into Nike's corporate headquarters, who did you meet with?
I met with probably 4 different vice presidents, a couple directors. I mean, it was all high-level people. The CEO, Mark Parker, who's the current CEO, at the time, I was at the shareholder meeting. He came down off the stage and he said, look, I've got to go to something else after this. You're meeting with my top people. We're interested in what you have to say. And I knew it was something for them just to check off their list. Hey, we met with the guy, right? We heard what he had to say, but they weren't going to fundamentally transform their business model on their own. I know these guys. I grew up with this mentality. right? I'm an athlete. I'm as competitive as they get, but they are cutthroat, and they will do things that completely decimate human beings and the environment to maximize returns for themselves and their shareholders. And that kind of power needs to be checked. It needs to be checked on Wall Street, and it needs to be checked in Washington, D.C. And unfortunately, those two have become one and the same over the course of the last 25 years.
And so did you see, by the way, that's an amazing thing that you stood up to Nike and you actually went to India, you lived, I mean, that's just beyond, I can't even imagine doing something like that. So that's just all kudos to you for doing that. And have you seen any progress from all your meeting with the Nike or from all your speaking out? Tell me about that.
Yeah, so we've made some points of progress, and I lay them out when I speak with college students. I kind of lay out, hey, here are some victories that we had, but this is some of the stuff that we still got to work on. One of the things, really awful human rights violation. So Indonesian law allows women to get two paid days off, every month when they're menstruating. And the reason they put this into place is you've got maybe 20 women on a production line. Product starts at one end, it ends at the other. Everybody does their little part. If a woman in the middle of the line happens to have her period, she's going to need to go to the bathroom a number of times during her shift. Well, when she's going to the bathroom, those products don't stop moving. They start to pile up. Efficiency isn't being maximized. Bad for business. In theory, better she stay home and then come back when she's ready to work. In practice, what was happening, in order for these young women to get the legally guaranteed menstrual leave break they had to go to the factory clinic, pull their pants down, show blood in their underwear to prove they were menstruating so they could get the days off. And because of us exposing this fact, that has stopped. And for the tens and tens of thousands of women who went through that humiliating process, who no longer have to go through it to get one of their legally guaranteed rights protected and respected, that's progress.
I think that's fantastic. Great work. So who are you running against in the 4th District?
Yep. So I am running against Chris No-Show Smith. Chris has been a member of Congress for 37 years representing the 4th District. He has not lived in the state of New Jersey since 1983. He has lived with his family in Northern Virginia. He rents an apartment on the western side of the district. He's been in Virginia so long that his kids get access to state tuition at Virginia schools. He spends less than 20% of the year per congressional records in our district. The most extreme example, in 2006, he only spent 7 nights in the state of New Jersey.
Wow.
And he has not held a town hall in our district in 25 years. Okay, this is a guy who has dialed it in. He is completely out of touch with the concerns of the people of the Fighting 4th District, and it is time for us to send him into his retirement in Northern Virginia, where he wants to live.
So have people challenged him before? Are you the first?
Certainly there have been challenges to his campaign. There hasn't been a strong campaign mounted since the early 80s. And, I will tell you this, I hope it's coming through in the conversation we're having. I am as passionate a brass knuckles Irish Catholic political street fighter as you will find. And I am going to take this fight to him in a way that he has never experienced in his 37 years on the Hill.
Have you experienced any pushback from his campaign so far? Are they acknowledging you, or are they trying to laugh you off?
I think not directly, but indirectly, I can tell you that Chris Smith has been coming back to the district more in the last few months than he has in the last 25 years.
Okay. Wow.
He's more active on social media. He's trying to let people know that, hey, I'm back in the district, and he pops into very controlled events that, his staffers, both in his congressional office and his campaign office, can maintain control over. But we continue to push. We're lucky this Friday coming up, one of the great activists here in our district has organized a joint town hall. We've got Congressman Pallone from the neighboring 6th District has agreed to host a town hall in the 6th, but it's right on the edge of the 4th, the town right next door to it, Asbury Park, where I used to be a councilman. We're going to bring people from the 4th District to hear from a representative in Congress, since our representative is afraid to meet with us.
And so what's been the response of the people to your candidacy so far?
It's been overwhelmingly positive. I think people are excited that we've got someone that wants to bring this fight to Smith. He's incredibly unpopular. When people learn, particularly when women learn about Chris Smith and what his record is, they are aghast. I mean, here's a guy who has been leading the fight to overturn Roe v. Wade. This is a guy who sponsored a bill to redefine rape as forcible rape so that it would be linked to people not being able to get access to abortion. This is a guy who does not believe that women should have access to birth control because the pill, in essence, for him is an abortion. This is a guy whose value. Now, look, I went to Catholic school for 18 years. I hold a graduate degree with distinction in theology. I taught religion at 2 different Catholic high schools in the district where I'm running. This guy's radical right-wing Catholicism it wasn't fit for 1717, let alone 2017. And his narrow, myopic interests are not serving the interests of the more than 500,000 voters in the Fighting Fourth District. And again, it is time for him to retire to Northern Virginia, where he has enjoyed living since 1983.
Now, Jim, before we let you go, the problems inside the Democratic Party are manifest, and you can't ignore them. In fact, I'm in California, so what's been happening here is just horrible, right? So they rigged the California delegate voting system, so now we have literally a progressive named Kimberly Ellis was cheated out of being the chairman of the Democratic Party in California. They literally installed a pharmaceutical lobbyist named Eric how do you say his last name? Bauman, as the chairman of the party. And right now we have the assembly leader, Anthony Rendon, who's also a Democrat. They have a supermajority in the legislature, and they're killing single payer. The Democrats are killing single payer in California. Jerry Brown is against single payer. He's also pro-fracking. This is what the Democratic Party is in the bluest state in the country. And so you tell me how you think you're going to fix the rot inside the Democratic Party, because they seem 100% corrupt and incapable of change.
Yeah. Look, we start at the grassroots level. I've been following what's been going on in California. I'm very supportive of the National Nurses Union and the work that they've been doing on the single payer issue. The reality is, out in California, you have got, in the state government, I think, was it $1.5 million of
health insurance
big pharma
money?
And health insurance money went to support the campaigns of Democrats, right? This is where we talk about you cannot be, you talk about not being able to be beholden to Wall Street and workers. You can't be beholden to the ideal that healthcare is a human right and our policies need to flow from that, and be beholden to your donor base of the giant insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies. You can't do it.
I agree.
Right? So what
I
I like to do, you ask, how do we change this? One of my political and spiritual heroes is Mahatma Gandhi. And Gandhi had said, we need to be the change we wish to see in the world. I need to be the change that I wish to see in the Democratic Party. I will run a campaign where I'm not going to accept the big corporate money. I'm not going to accept the big PAC money. I want small dollar donations from people from all over the district, all over the state, and all over the country. People need to realize, hey, I may be the congressperson from New Jersey's Fighting Fourth District, but I'll be pushing for and voting on policies that impact people all the way out in California. So we need to get more progressive voices in, and that's where someone like myself needs the support of progressives from around the nation. We need to show the Democrats that we can run bold progressive campaigns, we can fund them with small dollar donations, and then we can stand on our principles and not worry about a donor class that we'll be beholden to. The only people we'll be beholden to are everyday Americans who supported us because the ideas and the passion that we ran on.
Jim Keedy, I could talk to you all day. You're exactly, I think, what the country needs. You're the real deal guy. You're where the rubber meets the road. You're getting things done. So congratulations on that, and thanks for having the courage to run for Congress. And for getting in public life. You're going to take a lot of smears, especially since you're to the left of the Democratic Party. So you know how the corporate Democrats, they don't debate you, Jim. They're going to first smear you. And then they might talk about your ideas, but your ideas are winners, which is why they're never going to talk about your ideas. They're going to smear you first. So it's coming. I'm just letting you know, get ready. Just like they called Bernie a racist, and they called Bernie a misogynist, and he was a buffoon who didn't know how government worked, and every goddamn thing in the world they're throwing him, they're going to throw it at you too.
Yeah, and the thing that, for me, this isn't my first rodeo. I've been doing grassroots activism, going up against big money interest and political bullies for the last 20 plus years of my life. So I know that's coming. I think what makes me different than some of the people that have popped up at the grassroots level since Trump's victory is that I've been down this road before. So I'm ready for it. And I know I'm going to stay focused on what my agenda is, what the agenda of the majority of the American people is. Fight for those things. Run a campaign that is grounded on those bold progressive ideas and with a commitment to making sure that I'm not selling out to anybody so that I can I can put my head on the pillow at night. And two, when I do get to Congress, I can stand up for what we all believe in and not have to worry about some big donor being pissed off about it.
That's fantastic. Jim, what is your website?
Website is jimkeady.com. JimKeady.com.
And we'll put a link to his website right underneath this video if you want to learn more about Jim or find out how you can help him out. Jim Keady, the real deal. It is such a pleasure to meet and talk with you. Thanks for taking time out. Best of luck in your campaign. If there's anything else we can do for you at the Jimmy Dore Show, just let us know.
Thanks, Jim. Have a great day.
Okay, you too.